Right. Now, the classical framework for probability is based on sets and axioms and a function, a fundamental function, which we call a probability or probability measure or law or distribution, right? And that's sufficient for almost everything we do in machine learning. We don't need to go beyond that. We need some axioms, meaning rules, and these are just self-consistent rules that give us some sort of sane framework. They put probability within a framework that makes some sense. You know, we rule out any obviously crazy things via these axioms. That's why they're there. Now, we can take a measure theoretic viewpoint, which is basically the same, but it gives more framework to what sorts of sets and functions we can have. Right? The basic axioms remain the same, but the sorts of sets and the sorts of functions we have to be much more careful in characterizing what they are. And that means involving a lot of additional mathematical machinery, distinguished sets that we call sigma algebras, which are built on, well, uh, this is all covered in the measure and probability videos in great detail. So what does a probability so-called space consist of? Right. So a probability space is a sample space, meaning the space of all possible outcomes of an experiment, a random experiment, and then a collection of subsets of this sample space. What I mean by that is, let's say we have an experiment such as, uh, let's say we roll a dice, right? If we roll some dice, right, you can have 3 dots, right? What are the possible outcomes? The possible outcomes are 1 dot, 2 dots, up to 6 dots, right? So this we would call our sample space, the set of all possible outcomes, 1 dot, 2 dot, up to 6 dots. And now these are usually abstract things. So we could have things like heads, tails, you know, and these, yeah, they're numbers, but as written here, but fundamentally they are 1 dot, 2 dots, 3 dots, right? But we can just directly go to calling them numbers, 1, 2, up to 6, right? So this would be the sample space in this case. In the case of flipping a coin, our sample space would be heads or tails. There's no other possible outcome. And then we have subsets of these. So we collect all of the possible subsets of these. So what are the possible subsets? We can have the singleton. So, the possible subsets of this are all the singleton sets, 1 to 6. And we can have 1 with 2. That's one subset of this. 1 with 3. We can have subsets with 3 elements. We could have 2, 4, and 6, and all possible combinations from here. And ones with 4 and ones with 5. And then, of course, there's the whole thing as well. And we have to add the empty set and the whole space itself, right? So this is a trivial subset of itself. So this collection of all the subsets we can call F, right? And F is the power set. I'll come back to this later. But F is the power set of this, meaning nothing more than the power set of omega is the collection of all of its subsets. And we call these events, right? We call these events, for example, let's take this subset, 1, 2. Let me call it E. It's a subset of omega. Now, we want to be able to ask the following question. What is the probability of E? Meaning the probability of one dot or two dots. And if I put a 3 in here, it's one dot, two dots, or three dots. If it's just one, what's the probability of just one of one dot? So the probability of one dot is 1 over 6. We would expect each has an outcome probability. I haven't defined what that is yet, but intuitively, the chances that it happens is 1 over 6. That one dot happens, that two dot happens. Each of them has a chance of occurring of 1 over 6. So if one has a chance of occurring of 1 over 6, then 1 or 2 has a chance of 1 over 6 plus 1 over 6, because they both have a chance of 1 over 6. So we get this, which is 1 in 3, right? And so on and so forth. So these we call events, these subsets like this. This is something that can possibly happen. Anything that can possibly happen in our random experiment, like rolling a dice or flipping a coin, we call an event. Event. It's just a fancy name for one thing that could possibly happen. That we get either 1 or 2. That we get either 2, 4, or 6. That we get exactly this outcome. That we get 1 or 3, etc., etc. So finally, we need a function which tells us the probability of any one of these events. And so here I'm indicating that this function takes one of the events and maps it to a number between 0 and 1. Of course, we don't expect probabilities to be less than 0, and they can't be greater than 1. So the probability of the whole sample space must be equal to 1. Why? Let's go back to our example. Omega is 1, 2, up to 6. What's the probability of 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6? Well, when we roll the dice, we're going to get one of them. We'll definitely get one. We don't know which one. But now we're saying, what's the probability of any of them? Well, there's 6 outcomes, and this is all the 6 outcomes. So this probably has to be 1. That's the total probability. Right? But we can also ask, what's the probability, as we did before, of 1, 2, 1 or 2? So we can ask, this function tells us that probability, or P of 1, 2, 4. What's the probability you got 1, 2, or 4? And that would be 3 over 6, which is a half, because that's half of the outcomes. Half of the possible outcomes, that one, and that one. So we're saying if they've all got an equal chance of happening, intuitively would expect this is a half. Right? So what is this probability function? It's a set function. And that means nothing more than P, this argument, is a set. A subset of the whole sample space. And it spits out a number between 0 and 1, which tells us the probability of this subset, which we are interpreting as one event, a possible outcome or scenario from our random experiment. Okay. So these are the 3 elements. We need a sample space, the collection of all possible outcomes, which we interpret using our mathematical framework with sets, as the subsets, all of the subsets, or the power set, which is defined as all of the subsets of our sample space. And then Finally, we need a function which takes these subsets and gives us a number, which we interpret as the chances of that particular event happening. And that chance of that happening is precisely what we call its probability. Now, we're going to have to make all of this firmer, and we will look at at all of this in much more detail. So this set-based, or what we call, due to Kolmogorov, very clever guy, contributed to many things. He basically, I think, as far as I'm aware, he's the one who put probability in this kind of framework. He also contributed to things like turbulence. So this replaces what we would call a sort of more elementary or earlier frequentist or empirical interpretation of probability, which says that the probability of an event, in the way that I've been defining it, is the limiting relative frequency of E in repeated trials. That means that basically, if E is one possible outcome, and let's say we keep carrying out an experiment, random experiment, where the outcome, so let's say we carry out the experiment n times. Oh, why am I writing that as the set of natural numbers? Let's say we carry out the experiment n times, right? That's our experiment. We carry out the experiment n times, and E happens, let's say, n times. So in all of these experiments, E happens n times, where obviously n is less than the total number of times. So we can interpret the probability of E as n over n, right? Or as the limit of this as we do an infinite number of trials as we keep going, right? But if we do a large enough, let's say 1,000,000, then we'll get a very good approximation of this. So this is just number of times E occurs over total number of trials. So this is what we would call an empirical or frequentist view of probability. But this is still useful in some respect. It is still used in machine learning. For example, well, the fundamental reason why we can't rely on this is because we can't always repeat trials. And in fact, certainly in many cases in machine learning, we only have one single data set, one observation. We can't keep going back and getting more observations. That's it. We have that one, and we have to do something with it. So we can't take this sort of approach. But it's still useful when it comes to estimating parameters. And if you watch the statistical learning videos, that's all about how we estimate parameters. And so what we call maximum likelihood is basically a frequentist point of view. The maximum likelihood approach of estimating parameters, which we will study in very great detail. And it's already introduced in the statistical learning videos. So we're going to start now looking at random experiments, including the two I've just shown you. And I will, along the way, link this material to what we would call the measure theoretic viewpoint, but not in any massive detail. And there are some parts which I will say, you can skip this. It won't hurt you to skip it. You won't lose anything in this part of the course if you skip it entirely. But I think it's useful to do this, even though I cover in a much even longer than this set of videos the measure theoretic probability, because that requires a lot of background. So a lot of it is just setting up the background before you can actually go into the thing itself. Even though it's covered there, I still think it's worth repeating certain key elements of that here, just the overall picture, because it crops up so often. Even in machine learning, people will talk about the measure, Lebesgue measure, Redon Nicodim derivative, absolutely continuous measure, you will see it somewhere and it will leave you baffled unless you have some idea of what it's saying. And so the purpose here is to give you that idea, not to teach you all of the details. For that, watch the measure theoretic and probability videos if you want all of the details. But at least you'll have some pretty good notion of what people are saying when they say these things. So as I say, this will be minimal and it's not essential to understanding this part, and some parts of it you can entirely skip, and I will tell you when you can skip them.